Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Arsenal transfer show, our daily show in which we look at Arsenal's transfers. I mean, the clue is in the name. It should become very clear by now. Episode 63? 63. I'm just going to double check just to know that. Yes, 63. 63 days in a row. That's a lot. And not a lot has happened in those 60 days. In fact, we are still waiting for Arsenal's first official signing. 63 days into this show. We've only had one out as well. It's not like we've been majorly selling players either. We've brought in none and we've got rid of one in Konstantinos Mavropanos. So fingers crossed we can start to see some change because this is getting demoralising at this stage. Anyway, good morning. I hope you're well. I hope you're good in the chat box today. See plenty of you are joining us. Good morning from New Zealand. Wrath of Aries. Thank you so much. What an interesting name you have. Was that a decision from birth from your parents? Because if it was, very strange. Let's crack on with the news before the Wrath of Aries comes and gets me. Let's go and check out Bukayo Saka first of all. Now, we talked about this yesterday, of course, England progressing to the last four of the Euros. Saka didn't play in that game because he had a knock. Good news. I know this isn't specifically Arsenal transfer news, but it's good Arsenal news that he should be fit for the semi-final against Denmark. Should be going straight back into that team, playing ahead of Jadon Sancho. 100% better player. Just putting out there. I'm not biased. I'm just saying he's clearly a better player. But fingers crossed he starts for England against Denmark and makes a big impact. Anyway, let's crack on with the main transfer news. Starting off with Matteo Guendouzi's news regarding Marseille and the fact that this deal was pretty much confirmed. We saw images of him yesterday and he conducted an interview in which he said things. He said things again. He's been saying some things. And those things are as follows. To see that the club has failed to qualify for European competition for the first time in 25 years hurts deeply. Arsenal must return to where it belongs. I don't know the reasons for the failure because I wasn't there last season. But I'm concerned about the club's situation because Arsenal deserve great things. I am a gunner from the bottom of my heart and I will remain so no matter what. Now, I'm not going to go into the controversies. I'm going to try and break this down and go, wow, I mean, he's clearly being sarcastic. I don't know if he is being sarcastic. I don't know what he's saying. I don't really know anymore regarding kind of his motives, what he thinks or what he's saying, because he says a lot. He talks a lot, a hell of a lot. Talks better than he plays football, in my view. And I think that, yes, he's got a lot of points there which make a lot of sense. I appreciate the fact that you're a gunner and you're saying that from the bottom of your heart, but I really wish if that was the case, then you would have respected the club a lot more and authority a lot more and, just cracked on and did what you needed to do to get in the Arsenal team instead of, I think you maybe took his place at Arsenal for granted, to be honest, is the way I look at it anyway. You call me wrong. It's just how I see it. His move to Marseille looks like it's going to be moving in the next couple of days. Could be announced today. Who knows? Arsenal are set to receive around £10 million, not this summer, but next summer, because it's a loan with an obligation to buy of around £10 million. Now, another player that looks like he's going to be moving to Marseille, or is he, is William Saliba. Of course, we know a lot about the situation that dropped yesterday. There was a lot of confusion around whether or not there was an option or a buyout clause or something like that in the loan deal. We've been told categorically, as I said yesterday morning, that information is not true. There is no option. There is no obligation. There's no clauses in which Marseille could get Saliba permanently. They wanted one. That seems to be pretty common and pretty kind of well documented now that they did want an option or an obligation to buy him for around 15 to 20 million euros was the figures being talked about. I'm glad that Arsenal haven't done that. That's a good sign for his future. That's a good sign. So I'm happy about that. But that's the thing, is that we just don't know and we won't know what his long-term future is until he comes back after this season. Now, there was some interesting stuff that Arsenal seriously want him to move to a Premier League club. Marseille is not their preferred destination for him. That's his preferred destination, it seems. I want him to move to a Premier League club. I'm sure lots of you guys want him to move to a Premier League club. I'm disappointed that he doesn't want to go to a Premier League club. That's a real shame for me because I'd like to see him go off and really kind of cut his teeth in the English top flight, and then we can really kind of see how ready he is for the Premier League. But we will only have to wait and see. It looks very much like he's going to be moving off to Marseille right now, but things can change very quickly. So we will have to keep an eye on that story. Emil Smith-Rowe is our next focus. And of course, Arsenal have already rejected 2 bids from Aston Villa, one in the region of £25 million, the other in £30 million. And now supposedly they are going to be coming back, Aston Villa, with a £32.5 million. I mean, it's getting to a joke, really. I mean, I was trying to make sense of the bid in the first place. I still think it's a little bit concerning, the fact that a club like Aston Villa are still pushing for one of our most exciting players. That should ring alarm bells in your head, to be honest. However, the fact that they have increased their initial bid, which was way under his value anyway, at 25 mil, and in 2 more bids is only going up to 32.5 million. It's a bit of a joke. It's a bit of a disgusting amount to really value a player of his quality with 2 years left on his deal, knocking on the England international setup for next season, I would imagine, and has been, really on a really upward trend and performing exceptionally well. Even when we brought in a number 10, he was still undroppable, still put him into the team. He's priceless. I couldn't put a figure on his head right now. I'm not going to sit here and say I think he's worth this or that or whatever. I don't think he's worth any amount to Arsenal to sell, because I think the fact that he's homegrown, one of the most exciting talents in England right now, is enough that we should be looking to keep him no matter what. So I hope that we can get this new contract sorted when he returns from holiday. I'm not sure when that is, but it could be, it could be pretty soon, because there was some images of players training yesterday at the ground. So you'd think and hope that it's very soon, if not already, and that a new contract will be agreed very soon. Let's look at Joe Willock, who of course has been linked with a move away to Arsenal from Arsenal to Newcastle. Spent time on their loan there last season. Latest news is that Newcastle still very interested in this guy and wanting to bring him in. And Steve Bruce specifically is a big fan of him, as we know. Figures have ranged from the £20 million figure to the £30 million figure. I think for 20 million quid, that's not really enough. I think I'd be looking for more than that for a 21-year-old Prem proven who was amazing for them last season. You look at what some of the other players around are moving for. I think that closest to 30 would be a fairer price. Would I still sell him at that? I am interested to see if he can be given a chance at Arsenal next season, to see if he can translate the goal-scoring powers he had at Newcastle last season into Arsenal this season. But it's a really difficult one to obviously predict. And we had the Ainsley Maitland-Niles situation where we had a good bid come in. We rejected it. He barely played and he's not worth that now. And we will struggle to sell him this summer. So I hope that we can get a very good amount of money if we do sell him. If we don't, I want to see him given a chance next season. But until we see some of Arteta's first kind of press conferences and the opportunity to ask him some questions, we won't know. Let's go on to our last possible out, and this is Granit Xhaka. Of course, Switzerland were knocked out of the European Championships not so long ago by Spain. He will have a break period, but during that break period, it is expected that a move away from the club is going to be agreed. Arsenal are still standing firm on their €20 million valuation. Suppose that is not one that includes any kind of add-ons whatsoever. €20 million is €20 million, sorry, is the price. If Roma don't want to pay it, he could end up staying at Arsenal at this rate. It really is that surprising that they are standing as firm as they are. Fair play to Arsenal for standing firm on the price, because for too many years we've been selling players for a silly amount of money and underselling them. But I'm glad that we are going to stay on a price, which I still believe is lower than his actual value. And so Roma really should just stump up the extra money and get this deal done, to be honest. They've just managed to get rid of Cengiz Ünder to Marseille. Hopefully that frees up a little bit of money so they can get this deal done as well. But we'll wait and see if that turns out to be the case. Then, obviously, we did yesterday do this show, 10 players to possibly replace Granit Xhaka. We did that yesterday. So if you haven't already checked out that video, 10 players that we could look to bring in that centre midfield position. If you haven't checked it out already, please make sure you do. Let's go on to possible ins. Now, Wilfried Zaha has been linked with a move away from Crystal Palace. There hasn't been any kind of real links directly to Arsenal. However, the reason why I wanted to highlight this is because I want you to be careful. If you do start to see some links with Wilfried Zaha popping up again, do not be surprised. It is one of those that you can probably expect to come forward, considering he does want to push for a move. Patrick Vieira was, of course, confirmed as Crystal Palace's head coach yesterday, and looks like one of his first jobs is going to be finding a replacement. I saw Osman tweeting on Twitter. I mean, where else are you going to tweet? No, really bad joke. Where else are you going to tweet? I mean, when Osman talks about the fact that he maybe could see Reece Nelson going in the other direction, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Do I see that happening? I don't think Arsenal are going to go for Zaha, but it wouldn't surprise me if there are some links to this guy. So just be aware of that. Ben White. Now, this is probably one of the biggest stories of the day. According to Fabrizio Romano, Arsenal are still trying to sort this deal out. There's been a number of stories that came out yesterday, including one from Duncan Castles, about the fact that Arsenal tried to restructure the deal to make it more attractive to Brighton, including more money in upfront payments, and so less of it is structured later on down the line. Still struggling to sort out this deal and really kind of agree this deal with Brighton. They are not doing it very... It is not an easy deal to sort out, and for me, I don't know when you cut the cord on this. It's a really difficult one. It's a really tricky situation to turn around and say, look, we're not going to pay over this figure, because Brighton are just going to turn around and go, okay, fine, someone else will pay it eventually because he is that good of a player. But Arsenal supposedly have got a backup plan should they not go for him, and it's someone they've already bidded for in Edmund Tapsoba, the Bayer Leverkusen Burkina Faso international. We have been linked with him by The Athletic previously, and it was revealed by some sources yesterday that Arsenal have actually already bid for this guy 2 weeks ago. It was rejected, but they very much see him as an alternative to Ben White should Arsenal not get that deal done. Now, immediately, I imagine a lot of people turn around and go, well, why don't we just go and sign this guy anyway? Because, I mean, I think a lot of people would turn around and say that he's better than Ben White. Realistically, he very much could be. And at the end of the day, it's about how he would transition to the Premier League, how he would deal with that when you've got Ben White that's already proven and got that experience of playing in English top flight. It's really difficult to try and work out which one would suit the club better. Arsenal have backed away from this one after bidding for him initially and have gone for Ben White. If the Ben White deal doesn't work out, maybe they'll go in with a more higher bid for Tapsoba. We'll wait and see. They were also interested in Jules Koundé from Sevilla, but that wasn't something that they could get done because the French international wants Champions League football, which Arsenal can't provide him. The centre-back situation is really odd anyway, because I never saw Arsenal going in for a player of these kind of figures at the start of the window. It's really surprising considering how good our defence was last season. But I suppose they see Rob Holding after David Luiz has gone as kind of the number one, and that's not good enough. And they see the fact that Rob Holding is there alone because Saliba's going to go, Mavropanos is gone, and we've only really got Callum Chambers as a backup, but they more see him as a right-back backup, it seems. So maybe, and then we know that they've been looking for a right-sided centre-back since January because it was reported that they were targeting one in the January window as well. But who that is and who they go for is a really difficult scenario to try and work out. But that is all of the news for today. That is all of our transfer stuff. Now we move on to the final part of the show, which is, of course, getting your thoughts and feelings about Arsenal's transfer situation in the chat box. So if you have a question, please make sure you throw it into the video. Before you do, though, quick announcement. Tonight is the return of this. Yeah, very happy about the fact that the TGT podcast is returning this evening for the first official podcast of the season. I will be joined by John and Drew and Owen. This is our show in which our podcast regulars, some faces that you guys will be very well familiar with, and some of the new faces to the channel. You may have joined this channel over the summer for the first time, having just found it. A lot of based around transfer news. But throughout the season, we do shows, of course, around the whole football season, one of which is the TGT podcast, in which we have a chat with some of our regular guests. Some you may have seen before, some may be very new to you, but they're an amazing group of guys that come on the channel every single week. And we've got a big roster and we rotate and we change guests, and they provide some really interesting insights into Arsenal. And I hope that you're going to enjoy tonight's episode. It's a lot more chilled. It's a lot less kind of, seriously analytical. It's a lot more kind of, pub chat at times, which is a good to kind of just sit back, relax, have a beer, and chat about the Arsenal more casually. Anyway, let's jump into the chat box and see what you guys are saying in regards to Arsenal's transfer situations. Jasha Josiah says, Tom, after doing these shows for 63 days, can you see a clarity in our transfer business? Yes, it's a good question. I can see clarity. Obviously, we know the kind of positions that Arsenal are targeting. We've also seen a hell of a lot of links. Now, I've seen more links, having obviously writing about football every day and being in with the other clubs and seeing what they're doing. Arsenal are a lot more active than other clubs are right now in regards to links, in regards to who they're bidding for, who they're moving for. And that's encouraging. It shows me that in comparison to our rivals, we are trying to really move for players. The only other team that you really look at as being really proactive is Leicester. They've already got in the likes of Samara, etc., and they're pushing for other players. They've got Patson Daka in too. They're being really good in their window, as you always expect from Leicester. They are a model to us all, are Leicester City. But it looks like Arsenal know the positions that they want, the players that they want, who they want to go for. It's just now about getting these deals done, which is the hardest part of any transfer window, is getting these deals over the line. And we're going to have to see in the next couple of weeks or so how Arsenal really deal with that situation. So by episode 77, when we're 2 weeks from now, maybe we'll see a couple of signings, maybe even 3 being brought in by the club. That would be great. And that would, of course, be also the first Premier League pre-season game on the 13th of July would have been played. We go off to Scotland very soon to play Hibs and Rangers. So hopefully some deals can be done before then. Who's the backup plan for Arsenal again? Chat, I just joined. Pratama, it is Edmund Tapsoba. That is supposedly the guy that Arsenal are looking at, should we not get Ben White. But they have already had a bid rejected for him this window as well. Philip says, question off football, but how are the 5K runs going? Yeah, good, mate. Good. I mean, I had a little bit of a break and I've rejoined the gym. So hopefully you can get more in shape for the wedding next year. That's the plan. We'll wait and see if it actually turns out to be a reality. Amandeep says, should we put an 8 million bid for Villa Park? I mean, very brave to really try and buy their stadium. I mean, it's a tactic that I've not seen, but it's a very aggressive one, Amandeep. Very aggressive indeed. Alan says, is there any links with Maddison or is it just gone? Very quiet. Interesting. Obviously, the AFC Bell tweeted out about Arsenal's interest. Within a few days, we saw actual reporters from different websites tweeting about it. That's calmed down. Nothing has come out from that. It's amazing how much influence a Twitter account can have over the media and about the pressure to report a story and to find out more on a story. Arsenal will have a long list of players that they are interested in. There will be players on that list that we don't know about, that we have absolutely no clue who those players are, that Arsenal are interested in signing this summer. If a big account gets some information, be it true or be it a guess, and I'm not saying it was either, that if an account of the size of the AFC Bell, for instance, tweets about a player and it happens to be a match to one of the players that's on Arsenal's list, so that legit sources like Wheatley, like Charles Watts can kind of confirm that there is interest, it becomes a big story for a couple of weeks. But ultimately, it dies down because Arsenal are not making a move for Maddison. It also sparks a lot of your smaller ITK accounts to try and spice up a little bit more interest by claiming that Arsenal have made a bid when there actually hasn't been a bid. So it's very interesting how that happens, but it's a trend that you can spot every single summer. A big account might tweet about a certain player. They might get lucky. They might guess it right. They might guess that it is a player that Arsenal are interested in, so that when the big main sources can confirm Arsenal's interest, it becomes a story for a couple of weeks and then it dies away, as we are seeing with Maddison. It's not to say it won't come back. It might come back if Arsenal do push for this guy, but it only basically came forward because it was a name on a list that hadn't previously been reported, that came up for a couple of weeks, and Arsenal haven't acted upon it right now. So that's the situation that we find ourselves in with James Maddison. But like I says, Tom, great show on the 10 replacements for Xhaka. Not much appreciated, no problem. Drew says, also, why aren't we all over Camavinga now that we know he potentially costs just 10 million more than Lokonga? We can offer a hell of a lot more game time over PSG or United. Game time, sure. Champions League football, progression, guaranteed trophies, no. And this is the problem, is that, sure, there's going to be a lot of people that are very, very frustrated by maybe United or PSG signing Camavinga for a fee that we know is within Arsenal's reach. But the fact of the matter is that we sometimes need to take our arrogant boots off. We can't compete with those clubs at the moment in terms of what we can offer a player. You've got players like Jules Koundé turning around and going, no, you can do one. I'm not interested in coming to Arsenal because you haven't got Champions League football. It is a big, big, big pull for players to be in that competition. For Arsenal not to be in any European competition is mad. This is why it always staggered me when people ever turned around and said, what's the point of being in the Champions League? Or we're never going to win it. These are the points. These are the situations. These are the times when those look like such silly viewpoints to have about whether or not we should be in the Champions League because we can't or can, or it's very unlikely that we'd win it. Because when you're competing for certain players, having that accolade, having that attractive element to your team is so key. And who is to say that Arsenal haven't bid, haven't inquired, haven't had a word with his agent? We don't know if it has done. But the fact of the matter is that we can't offer what Man United and PSG can. Game time is irrelevant in this sense here because it's for a certain player that is of a certain level that wants to go to certain clubs. He wants to go to PSG, it seems, for his main kind of priority. Man United have swooped in and moving very quickly to sort out a deal for themselves. And that is ultimately an issue that we've got to change. And that's why we need to be really, really smart in the market. We need to use this window. It's why it's so imperative. It's why I can't emphasize this point anymore, is that Arsenal need to use this season out of European football without that extra responsibility to push like crazy for the top four. Champions League next season is a must target. No excuses, no nothing. This window needs to be good enough so that we can build a team that is capable of competing to get into that top four. And if Arsenal can't do that this summer, there is such a damaging situation for not just next season, not just the season after, but the next 10 years. This is how important the season is. It's also why I'm very intent on saying that if things aren't going well with Arteta at the start of the season, then you need to make a change. You need to react. You need to act upon it. That's the situation we find ourselves in this year. So there you go. Tackle says Joe Willock is interesting if Newcastle offer 35 mil. He is gone, but any less is unrealistic. Emil Smith-Rowe is worth 60 to 70 million pounds. We should also get the White transfer over the line. Fingers crossed that we can get that done. The real Yanis says, why didn't they react when we were in the Champions League? KSE, yeah, exactly. We rested on our laurels in the Champions League. We took it for granted. We're out of it now, and we look absolute mugs for it. Absolute mugs for it. We didn't use the Champions League pool anywhere near enough. We didn't build upon Ozil. We didn't build upon Alexis Sanchez. We signed Petr Cech in a single window, and we absolutely broke down the foundations that we had originally kind of crafted to build upon, and we just failed. We ultimately failed in window after window after window, and it is really costing us now. And that's why this window is still so important. So important. Timothy says, don't you think we should have gone for Maddison before Ben White? Because now we have set a benchmark in terms of price. Leicester now won't want less than 70 million if we're spending 50 million on White. Tim, I think it didn't matter. I don't think it matters about going for Ben White before Maddison. The price of Maddison was always going to be that high. It was always going to be that amount. Leicester only sell one big player a season, and when they do sell them, they make sure they get a ton of money for them. We've seen it with Chilwell, with Kante, with Mahrez, with Maguire. We see it season after season after season. They sell one big player and it goes for a hell of a lot of money, and they hold on to the rest. They will do the same with James Maddison, and they will accept a price only that they are willing to sell at. It will not be affected by anything else Arsenal does. They will set their price, and that will be it. Flying Fish Overlord says, are there any players in the Championship that you're interested in other than Buendia, who is now a Premier League player technically because Norwich have been promoted? Not really. I mean, if you Brentford, Norwich, and who else came up last season? Watford. All of their players, like I'd consider now the Premier League level. Elise from Reading is the only real one I can think of. But Elise isn't someone that's going to change our midfield. He's not going to transform things for us. He's an amazing prospect, and I definitely would go and get him. But it's not the signing that's pushing us towards Champions League this season. It's the type of investment that you make for the long term. The modern Gooner, hello, mate, from Guangzhou in China. Absolute pleasure to have you joining us. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Again, where's Max Aarons is, he's a Premier League player now for Norwich. Ingar says, in your opinion, Tom, why did Arsenal not go for Samara but instead decided to go for Lokonga? I think because they're looking for two midfielders this summer. I think they're looking for a midfielder that's going to start, that's going to be your kind of established centre midfielder, and then Lokonga is going to be kind of your experimental prospect backup option that gets rotated in here and there. So I don't think it was a case of one or the other. Samara's your starter, but I think they may want to go for someone who's better than him as your starting midfielder, but we'll wait and see because we don't know who the centre mid is going to be that they're going to go for. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Cyrus says, I agree with you, Tom. Champions League is the target, but if you aim for the Champions League, you end up 5th to 8th. But if you aim for the title like current top 4, they will once again trickle down and make top 4. I understand your theory. Obviously, the target has to be at a minimum top 4. If you're saying that we're going to aim for the title, then maybe that means that you would end up in top 4. It's a weird concept, isn't it? Because you're saying that you're going to aim to get top 4. But really, every team starts out the season aiming to win as many games as possible. That will obviously lead to, if you win more, you're going to get closer to win the title. If you win less, you could be closer to relegation. So it is all about, obviously, how you change your targets, but you should be aiming to win all of the games. That is a minimum. You just go into every game aiming to win it. It's as simple as that. I mean, there are some games that are more tactical. You might go to a City, you might go to a Chelsea or a United or a Liverpool and try and, stay in the game, especially from an Arsenal perspective. So you're not necessarily aiming to win it, but you're aiming to not lose it. But do you know what I mean? You're aiming to get as far as you can and pick up as many points as feasibly possible. Chris says, how about Calvin Phillips with Thomas Partey? Again, Calvin Phillips, English at Leeds. They're going to want upwards of £50 million. Absolutely no shadow of a doubt. That is what that they would be asking for. So, yeah, you're looking at a hell of a lot of money to bring him in. If Basuma or Sanchez to play the pivot role alongside Partey as Locatelli is unrealistic. I mean, Sanchez absolutely not to play a pivot role alongside Partey. I would not want him playing that role. Sanchez is not a target that I think Arsenal should really go for, to be honest. I think when we did our tactical breakdown on Renato Sanchez, he came out very poorly, to be honest. His injury record is horrific. His defensive capabilities are questionable. His best part of his game is his dribbling, and his final third creation is still in need of a lot of developments. Whereas someone like Basuma is much more specialised and really good in more areas like defending, discipline, positioning, mobility, screening and sweeping. I think he's all really good at. So I'd rather Basuma over Sanchez 100%. I think Renato Sanchez is not the player that we should really go for. But we might, and he might prove me wrong, in which case I hope he does. Arvin says, Tom, do you think Arsenal will go for Tosin Adarabioyo if Ben White's deal doesn't go through? His release clause of 10 million expires on the 7th of August, so there's time. Had a really good season for Fulham last year, did Adarabioyo, who I've now mastered pronouncing his name. And possibly Arsenal ended up going for him. There was interest in him at the start of the window. That's died off. We also had interest in Joachim Andersen. That's died off. But his buyout clause is very low, and I imagine I'd be surprised if no one went for him. The price that he's available for, it would surprise me. Drew says, is the striker situation slightly concerning? We're a season away from both our main strikers in their 30s, and Lacazette might be leaving as well. I mean, they're both in their 30s now. Lacazette's 30 and Aubameyang's 32. Aubameyang has 2 seasons left. Lacazette has 1 season left. We have Balogun that we've signed up to a new deal. I think, to be honest, next summer is probably the time that we'll sign a new striker. I don't really see Lacazette leaving now. I'll be surprised if he does. I don't see him signing a new contract either. I think this will be his final year, and then he'll go, which is a shame because we should have made some money for him when we could have done, and we should have tried to sign him up to a 1-year extension, which we haven't done. So I think we'll end up next summer, maybe pushing for a striker. We will wait and see. Ingar says, what are the chances that Arteta will give Martinelli to play more this season? I am sick to see Laka and Aubameyang missing their chances and being miserable. I mean, it's an interesting one. We're always trying to clamour for Arsenal to try and get top 4, and at the same time, we're desperate to see more kids play. I talk about this quite a lot. You need to find the balance. You can't just play a whole team of 20-year-olds and hope to get top 4 in the Premier League. It's about finding the balance and using your players correctly. Now, if your players aren't performing, sure, swap them out. It's a new season, new leaf, new clean slate. Let's see where the players start off. Harry Evans says, we need a number of positions filled this window, like Cam, 2 centre midfielders, left back, right back, goalkeeper, based on what we have been linked with. Do you think we could only get about 5 players? What players would they be, and how much would they be for? Not a short question, Harry. In regards to links, there's only a few positions that I can tell you, because ultimately I can't tell you I think we will get in certain positions like attacking midfield, because we haven't seen a legit link with anyone so far. There's been stories about interest in players, but nothing about official bids. We can talk to you about left back. We know that we're going to get Tavares from the looks of things. I can talk to you about one of the midfielders, because it looks like we're going to get Lokonga. At centre back, it looks like we're going to go and get Ben White. Goalkeeper, possibly we're going to get probably a homegrown backup, and Leno's going to stay. Right back, I can't tell you, because again, we've not pushed for one, and we've not yet moved on Hector Bellerin. And I think the other central midfielder that we're going to look at is probably going to be from a group of your Ruben Neves to your, well, I mean, we haven't seen too many other links with bids or moves for that position either, really. So I hope that we can get in your Locatelli. That's your dream scenario, but I doubt that will be the case. And I think maybe we'll end up pushing again for Ruben Neves, but we will wait and see. But I can't give you names in other positions because we just haven't seen any legit links, and I'll be purely guessing at this point, which I'd prefer not to do. TGOG says, what is the question there? Sasha says, do you think David Luiz had any input into Arteta's opinion of Saliba? Meaning, Luiz told Arteta that Saliba is unready. No, I don't think so. I would have been very surprised if that was the case. I don't know why that would happen. That's weird. Yeah, I don't think so. Snow says, Tom, wouldn't the loss of Martinelli and Xhaka to international tournaments leave us a little light on the flanks and forwards? Martinelli isn't going, I don't think, to the Olympics anymore. So he is coming back. Xhaka will obviously need a bit of a rest and may not be available for the start of the season. We'll have to wait and see. In terms of Pepe is going to be available. In terms of Martinelli, we've already talked about he's going to be available. Willian, we don't know about. Emil Smith-Rowe, if we sign an attacking midfielder who can play in a wide area, he'll be available. Martinelli, I think we'll be fine. I don't think we're going to go for a wide player. I'll be very surprised. So we'll wait and see. Wilson says, do you think Arsenal should be aiming higher than top 4, or am I being too greedy? I mean, Arsenal should always be aiming for the ultimate every single time, but the realistic goal should be top 4. That should be the expectation. That should be the expectation of what we are as close to, if not in, by the end of next season. If we're not in it and we miss out by like a point or 2 points, I can live with that. If we're like 7, 8, 9, 10 points away from top 4, it's an absolute failure of a season. I can somewhat come to terms with finishing a point or 2 off top 4 next season, because I still think we need a hell of a lot more quality to compete with your Liverpools, your Cities, your Uniteds, and your Chelseas of this world, and they will be the favourites to get top 4. Those 4 teams, because they have a much better squad than Arsenal. So we need to try and improve the squad as much as possible so that we are pushing for that. And now we haven't got any European football, we've got a real chance to push for that. So we'll wait and see. But fingers crossed we can get to that stage next season. Seal says, Tom, should we pay Willian out? I mean, no. 2 years on a 200+ week contract is a lot of money to pay off in one summer. So no, I wouldn't. Tom Martinelli, I believe, has been added. Has he been re-added to the Olympic squad? Because I know that he initially didn't get in, but unless he's been re-added, he didn't make the final cut. So we'll need to check that one. Wesley says, Tom, do you think if Mainsley decides to play at right back, we would give him a chance and not go for Bellerin's replacement? Also, would you do it? No, because I think the right back's a position that we genuinely need a serious upgrade in. I don't believe Maitland-Niles is that player. I think we need to actually push for a specialised right back who's a real upgrade on what we've already got. Let's have a look and actually check that Martinelli news. Has he been re-added to the Olympic squad? Let's just quickly check. Brazil name, yes. So Martinelli has been called up. So there you go. So Martinelli's not going to be available at the start of the season from the looks of things, which is frustrating. Wow, Danny Alves is in it. that's pretty weird. And Everton won over Richarlison. That's a bit of a blow. But I mean, if it's a case of the the first few games we are without Martinelli, we're without Saka. Then you've got Smith-Rowe, you've got Pepe. You never know. We could end if you end up selling Willian, you never know. We may end up going for a wide player. You've got Aubameyang that can play in a wide area as well. I think we have enough, but we have some really difficult games against Chelsea, against Man City. There is part of me that goes, it's a little bit fortunate that we play those teams so early, because obviously they will be missing quite a few of their own players that have been at international tournaments. So you have to consider that. I mean, Man City, you think, would be without the likes of Laporte. They'd be without Foden. They'd be without Bernardo Silva, sorry. They'd be without maybe De Bruyne, who's suffered an injury. So maybe we get lucky. Chelsea will be without the likes of Havertz and Timo Werner. But it depends on when they would come back. Like they would have been back with on their holidays a week or 2 weeks before the rest. So it depends on when they get them back. We'll wait and see. Ruben Diaz, yeah, there's plenty that those teams will be without. So maybe it'll be a blessing that we play those teams early in the season. We'll have to wait and see. Alan says 10 alternative videos are the best. When Bellerin goes, can we see some 10 alternative right backs? Is a video that I do plan on doing very soon, as well as possible strikers, as well as backup goalkeepers. I think there's a lot of shows that we need to look at doing a top 10 video for. Tarun, thank you so much for the donation, mate. Amazing how much time is being spent on Ben White and Ramos's contract when the three priority positions are attacking midfield, starting centre mid, and the right back. Only AFC. Again, it could be the fact that we're just waiting for those positions to become more available later on in the window. Some positions only become available later on because of certain dominoes needing to fall first. But we will wait and see. Anyway, there's over 600 of you guys watching. If we could get over 100 likes at the start of the video, that'd be really great. So please do drop a like a video if you have enjoyed the show. I'll be back a little bit later on today for the TGT podcast. I'm going to be talking a lot about William Saliba, a lot about Arsenal's transfers. Again, I'm going to be joined by three fantastic guests in Drew, John, and Owen as well. Getting the team back together. It's going to be a lot of fun. 8 o'clock UK time. Make sure you tune in for that. An absolute pleasure to speak to you guys as always. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.